welcome to this conversation presented by White House Custom Color. I'm Jed Taufer. Thanks for listening. You know, my wife Vicky and I have owned and operated our photography studio, V Gallery, for 20 years now. White House has been our lab for the last 16 of those years, and we could not be happier. White House is a family-run business, just like ours. If you haven't already, check them out at whcc.com. And if you want to drop me a line, feel free to email me at jed@whcc.com. My daughter is almost 10. She's my only girl, and I can't believe that I get to be her dad. Sometimes I worry about her future, though. Mostly the typical stuff, I think, like having to do with what life is going to look like for her as she gets older. I have many hopes for my children, but one of the main ones is that they will be strong enough to weather the storms they face as they grow up, and to weather them well. Miyo Strong has seen a series of changes and shifts throughout her 23-year career as a photographer that have contributed to an enviable strength and a formidable will. She's the embodiment of an empowered person and a tremendous example of someone who loves themselves well so that they can love others well. The more I spoke with Miyo, the more I was struck by this, and I realized that there isn't much more I could wish for my own little girl. This conversation has been kind of like dangling out there for me for a while, because I knew I was going to ask you to do this a while before it even was made official.
Really? Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Because like when I think of our industry now, I think of women photographers. Like that's because I remember 20 years ago, I didn't think of it that way. It was like mostly all these old school dudes, right?
That was a boys' club
that had these studios, and I understand that that's even how that's an relatively accurate way to refer to it. I didn't even think about it along those lines, probably because I'm a man and I'm not a photographer, but I do. You know, it's pretty easy to think back to those days and think, yeah, it was a bunch of guys. And a lot of them were like older, middle-aged to older men that had these studios that's who took your portraits.
Yeah.
That's who took pictures, right? That's what a photographer looked like. And these days it couldn't be more different. You know, it's young and it's vibrant and it's dominated by women. And I love it. I think it's so great.
Yeah, it's really cool to see the shift.
With that in mind, there are, in my mind, certain women that really stand out as strong and fearless and fierce, really maybe is a good word. And you're one of the people that stand out to me as somebody that represents that movement. Does that sound strange? I mean, I met you in 2005.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Right? 14 years ago, like this month, is when I met you and Laura.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's a little. I thought about it the other night.
We're old, Jed.
It was like, I was like, well, that was probably like 8 or 9 years ago. Nope, it was 14 years ago. And so you two kind of always been like that way for me. Like that's how I see you. And now you've done so much more, even right? Because you weren't beating people down back then, were you?
No, I was hustling, working over full time, trying to make 6 figures a year.
Okay, so now with all of that out of the way, and I don't know how much I'll even cut out of that because I feel like I rambled when I was trying to express what I was saying. Tell everybody who you are and a little bit about yourself and a little bit back and then up till now.
And then moving forward.
Yeah.
So my name is Miyo Strong, and I'm actually a 3rd generation portrait photographer. My grandparents owned a portrait house, and my mom, she was a portrait photographer for a little while and retired as a commercial photographer. So I've been in the industry 23 years. And so definitely the old boys club was what I had to break into. Right.
Is that how you looked at it?
Oh, 100%.
Like conscientiously, then, is that how you looked at it?
Oh, yes. I remember very vividly, like going to the Mormon temple in Utah, and there's a waiting room where all the photographers wait for their brides to come up.
Oh, okay.
and being asked several times, oh, whose assistant are you?
Oh, really?
Who are you here with?
That was just an assumption.
Just an assumption.
A given.
Yeah,
that you were just an assistant.
Yep. I'm sorry. I'm a young female and I'm here to shoot this wedding. Like, get out of my way, boy.
And did you have that attitude back then too, pretty much from the get-go?
Yeah, I've always had a chip on my shoulder about feminism and equality. You know, it's always been a huge driving force in my life. So yeah, I was intimidated inside, but outside they never saw that. They just saw, you know, a big smile and nope, I'm here. I'm owning it. I'm here to shoot the wedding on my own. Thanks.
Right.
Whose assistant are you? You know, just turn the tables.
Throw it back on them, right?
Yeah, because it can be just as innocent,
of
right?
Of course.
And now I love, I have, the majority of my assistants are male.
Awesome.
Yeah. And it's not by design. It's just.
Whether it is or whether it isn't, it's pretty, I think it's still pretty cool.
But it's great.
Sure. Right.
Yeah.
What has it looked like then in the last 23 years getting from there to here?
It's crazy because, you know, starting with film and Polaroid backs and working our way up through the digital transition was rough. Like, I remember shooting weddings on a Nikon. God, I can't even think what the camera body was, but it was just, we couldn't even print color because the skin tones were so awful.
Really?
Yeah.
See, we didn't use Nikon then. We went from the F100, which was a Nikon film-based camera, to Fuji S1.
Oh yeah, because they had a great digital camera right at the beginning.
They did, and then we moved to the 760, the Kodak 760.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, which was huge and heavy. And then we moved to the S2, back to Fuji again.
Back to Fuji.
Yeah, and then it was Canon and always has been. But I remember those days. Like, I don't think we ever had to do just black and white because of the skin tones.
The skin tones were so
and
terrible.
You're working with like a 2.4 meg file.
Yes. I know, it blows my mind now, like what we get to work with. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So we transitioned from the Nikon digital to when Canon started getting really, you know, competitive. And I remember selling all my Nikon gear, just like kind of sad, but also ready for it. You know, the technology was.
You were doing what you had to do.
Yeah, the technology was coming. So
that was a big shift. What since then? I feel like there's been several in the industry. For you, how have the shifts manifested since that big one?
Yeah, I think the biggest shift, because I worked for a brick and mortar studio, and we had a very specific style. We were put into this beautifully packaged box that was portrait lighting, very classic, very traditional, which works. And that's what I was raised on. My grandparents and my mom, they both shot in this very traditional classic style, which I still to this day appreciate and respect. But when I left that company 5 years ago, I suddenly realized I don't have to shoot in anyone's box. I don't have to answer to anyone. I'm going to turn my ass around and shoot into the sun. Why not? Like, I'm going to lay on my belly and shoot up. And
how'd you get into martial arts?
So when I was in it was my freshman year of college. The UFC was just getting big, and these tiny Brazilians were kicking the crap out of these big old.
We were talking about that the other night.
These big old meatheads, and I had a history of some, you know, sexual violence in my past, and so I had thought, okay, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is for smaller statured people. It's kind of how they advertise it. I'm not a large human. I'm a female. So I checked it out at a local gym and quickly fell in love. Just thought, oh my gosh, this thing is amazing. It's a great workout. It's a great mental challenge.
Because it's technical.
Oh, there's so much technique to it.
You're a technician.
Yes. Right? Yes. They call it human chess.
Okay.
Like, you're basically move for move. And if you can be 3 moves ahead in your wrestling or your jiu-jitsu match, then you're going to be the winner. So it's this mental game as well as.
And it's happening fast.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Yeah. So I started then and then quit because I got married, had kids, like wanted to get my master's before I turned 30, get my craftsman before I turned 33. Like, I had all these goals, and was quite driven. And so I accomplished all those goals, and then was kind of looking for the next thing. And I had my last child. And so I was ready to do something for me. And fitness has always been a huge happy spot for me and coping mechanism for me. So anything physical like that, I am drawn to. So I went back after my little one turned about 3 or 4. It's been about 4.5 years since I've come back to jiu-jitsu. And it has it's changed my life for the better. It's amazing.
Is it fitness that is your main MO with jiu-jitsu, or what?
No, I think, there are so many things to jiu-jitsu that I'm drawn to, but I think the mental clarity that comes from training, because and it's therapeutic, right? You go to jiu-jitsu and you have to be there 100% present. Otherwise, somebody's getting hurt. Like, you have to be able to focus on what you're doing and be a good partner, be a safe partner. Jiu-jitsu is one of the only sports you can practice at 100% safely, because we have the tap, right? So you can get somebody in.
Gosh, it doesn't seem like those. I know about the tap, of course.
Yeah.
And I watch a little MMA, and I used to watch a lot of the UFC back in the early days when it was crazy.
Yeah.
We talked about that the other night too, but it doesn't, like, those words don't seem like they make sense. I believe you.
Yeah.
And I trust that, but you have the tap, and that's what makes it 100% safe.
Yeah. It's your responsibility, right, to keep it safe, but it's not like you can do a full-on boxing match with no gloves and, or no headgear, Muay Thai, all those things. Like, you can spar, and that's what we call it in jiu-jitsu as well, but it's something that you can do 100% with a partner and stay safe. You're, tapping, you're giving up as soon as they're in, some sort of submission, and then you start again, and it's always different.
How does jiu-jitsu help you be a better mother, a better photographer, a better wife, a better person?
So I think it is the therapeutic version, right? Yeah. My kids know when I haven't trained.
Why? How?
Because I'm angry. I get frustrated easily. My patience level is, low. And they either say, "Mom, have you eaten?"
Or they say, "Mom, go to the gym."
And they say, "Mom, have you trained?" Go to jiu-jitsu, go to strength and conditioning. Yeah. So it just, I don't know if you listen to David Goggins. Do you know? I know.
No, we talked about that the other night.
So he talks about how, as humans, once we empty the gas tank, like, we are so much more able to take the stressors of life and roll with the punches. And empty the gas tank, like physical fitness, something. He's a marathoner right now.
I feel like for me, it's the opposite. I feel like I need to fill the gas tank. And when I say gas tank, I mean it's my stomach with a cheeseburger.
Yeah. Well, and we also talked about that, right? How everybody has their coping mechanism.
Right. Well, and yours has so much better consequences than mine. I remember that conversation.
Yeah. I don't know that my orthopedic would agree with you.
Well, but no, it is interesting though, like conceptually, when you're saying empty the gas tank, this is what Goggins says, right?
Yeah.
That we need to empty the gas tank.
Yep.
For what?
To be fully present, right? To be able to sit in whatever situation we are and have patience, I think, and have a clear mind.
And that's what training does for you.
Yeah. Training does that for me 100%. Yeah. And in turn, then I'm, better able to deal with customer issues or, mothers of the bride or whoever needs my attention. Yeah. I can give my attention to fully when I myself have been taken care of. And, self-love, there's this big movement of, women, especially, the caretakers and the nurturers have to be able to take care of themselves first.
Right. It's the whole, you're on the airplane and the masks come down and put your mask on first. You can't help others. You got to help yourself first.
Yep. 100%.
Right. And so that's a big piece. Mm-hmm. And you see that play out.
Oh, yes. And just having something to myself, right? Mm-hmm. Something my husband doesn't train. My kids train somewhat, but they don't compete. Jiu-jitsu is mine. Like, jiu-jitsu is my happy place, my safe place. It's, many, many, many of my best friends train with me. And it's just this safe, happy, healthy environment that you get to step into. I try and train 5 days a week at least.
Really?
Yeah, 5 days a week of jiu-jitsu, 2 hours, 2 to 4 hours, depends on. And then I love to do
20 hours a week.
Strength and conditioning as well, added into there. At least 2 days of strength and conditioning.
They're not the same?
Nope. Jed, you need to come out to Utah and train with me for a week. It would be so fun.
I would probably be a pain.
No, it would be so fun. And you and I would discuss the food relationships.
Oh, that would be painful.
Yes. But sometimes, right? That's what I'm finding is like painful conversations, painful experiences lead to breakthroughs.
Where do you see the very specific similarities between your love for photography and what you get out of that, and your love for jiu-jitsu and what you get out of that? Yeah,
so it's an interesting shift because for many, many years I was driven by the paycheck. I wanted to make 6 figures. I had these certain goals that I based my own success on.
Right.
And now I feel like my successful feelings stem from healthier places. So I shoot only part-time now. And that kind of evolved from, well, first of all, leaving that company, I shoot way less and I make the exact same amount, which is just the difference between working
for yourself now, right?
For somebody versus yourself. So I was able to work a lot less when I left, which enabled me to train a lot more. And then I quickly realized jiu-jitsu and competing, women's empowerment, self-defense, all of these things that I now fill my days with are more fulfilling emotionally and in my soul than a paycheck ever would be. So I've shifted my shooting structure. I used to shoot a ton of weddings and families and little kids and seniors. I did it all. I've slowly whittled down over the last 18 months to 2 years, much more specialized. So, and I believe for 2019, I think I'm only going to shoot 6 weddings. And then for 2020, I will retire from weddings. I love weddings, and I, depending on the family, like I just would never say no, because I've been in the business 23 years. So you can imagine I have a lot of like seniors that I shot that are getting married now.
Of course.
Yeah.
Right.
Or families that I shot that now I've done all 4 of their daughters or whatever it is. So I'll always be able to do that. But I've shifted to corporate. Yeah. And it's not that it fulfills me creatively, because it's not creative at all.
Yeah.
But it fulfills me in that I can make great steady income. The hours are very, very minimal. You know, you go into a company and you shoot for an hour, you can get 35 employees done and bang, full day commercial rate. You know, it's great.
Right.
But it also, so because those contracts are in place, and I worked hard to get those contracts with the end goal in mind being to be able to train more jiu-jitsu.
Sure.
I have then been able to really, really focus and be present on the families that I'm shooting. So, because that's my love.
It's like a full circle.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It kind of all goes around and is connected.
Yeah. It all has, an impact on each other. So when the families that I do shoot, I am 110% focused on the creative process and the relationship building. Then I am, okay, how many families can I shoot on a Saturday? Okay, I can shoot 12 families. That means, which used to be my mentality. So
you train others too, right?
For photography or for jiu-jitsu?
Jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. So I have private clients for jiu-jitsu. And then one of my teammates and I, her name's Chelsea Kilpack, we run a company called Empower Self-Defense, which is for females only. And we do ages 12 and up, because we do talk about, some sensitive subjects with rape, with sexual abuse, and the sexual violence. There's a lot of scary statistics out there, and nationally 1 in 5 women will experience some sort of sexual violence in their lifetime. And in Utah, it's 1 in 3.
Is that right?
So, right. I have 2 daughters.
Oh, good.
There's 3 females in our house. Like those
Right.
statistics are not in our favor. And those are just reported cases.
Right.
So that's always been, because of my history with sexual violence, it's always been a very important thing for me, for women, females, girls, whatever, to feel like they have some tools and they have the education to know what to do in different situations that, you know, are very, very uncomfortable. So Chelsea and I work really hard. We do one big seminar a quarter, and we donate all the proceeds to a different charity that affects women's health.
That's aligned with your vision. Right.
Yeah. So we did the Utah Coalition Against Sexual Assault last seminar, and we donated almost $5,000.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, that's significant.
Yeah, we have, and the community feedback has been wonderful.
Yeah.
And Chelsea and I individually have been contacted by several. I mean, it's so sad, but it's also makes me proud that we are a safe space that these women can contact us and talk to us and share their stories.
You're creating a space.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. A safe space. 'Cause that's what I needed. That's what Jiu-Jitsu was for me.
Right.
And Jiu-Jitsu is one of the most effective self-defense arts for women specifically, because it's all on the ground.
Right.
It's learning to fight off your back. It's learning to fight from the top. It's learning to subdue opponents that are much larger, heavier, and stronger than you.
Right.
Yeah. So it all plays into it. And honestly, I think the stat was 88% of sexual violence happens with an acquaintance or a family member.
Yeah.
So the education we do at our self-defense seminars focuses a lot on just knowing that you have a safe adult, or you have a trusted friend, or, you know, there's all sorts of education pieces that go into, seeing red flags, women and girls to see their worth, that they, you know, and taking the shame and the guilt out of it.
What do you say to a woman that's listening that has experienced what you're discussing, and on whatever scale or whatever level, that hasn't taken a step towards empowerment? What do you say to them if they're afraid, or if they're dealing with like self-hatred or shame?
Yeah.
What do you say to somebody that's stuck in that spot?
Yeah, I think the first thing I would do is wrap my arms around them. Yeah, and I would tell them that I am so sorry, and that nothing they did caused it. It's not their fault. And then I would leave it up to them. You know, people will only seek help when they're ready. And you can't force it. And even wrapping my arms around somebody like that might be terrible for them. Sometimes the touch, sometimes
okay.
You know, so you have to be careful. But my love language is touch. So if somebody's hurting, I want to just wrap them up and just make them feel safe. Because that's what I needed. That's what I wanted.
Right.
And, you know, the guilt and the shame is so heavy a burden to carry.
Right.
And even though we're really, really good at putting on this face, this successful, or this strong, happy, whatever it is, whatever face you want to show the world, we are so good, I think, especially as women, to put the mask on and get through the day.
Yeah.
Especially if we have kids.
Yeah.
You know, you just do it. So the first step is really understanding that it's not your fault.
Yeah.
And that there are people out there that will love you and will support you and help you on your journey to healing without any judgment. It may not be your partner you're currently with. It may not be your clergy member that, you know, you want to go talk to. It may not be there right away, but keep trying.
Right.
Keep reaching out.
Right.
Find people. There are so many communities that are here to support each other, especially through sexual violence, rape recovery, all of those things.
Do you feel like as a culture there has been a shift in the right direction?
Oh, 100%. Men are finally getting called out on their bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Men are probably shocked. Women are not.
Yeah.
You know, at who's guilty and who's having a problem and who's gotten away with it.
That's a really good way to put it. Shocked. And to say that men are shocked and women are not. I get that to a degree. Like on one hand, there's a lot of stuff that's come out that I'm not shocked at at all.
Mm-hmm.
But what struck me the other day, and I didn't know if I was going to talk about this or not, but I was thinking about this, is that I might not get this 100% right, but I saw or I read a college professor speaking to a class, and he separated the men and the women in the class and started asking them questions about what it's like to go to their car at night, like to go out from a building to your car's in the parking lot. And he asked a series of questions to both groups separately, not together. And like he was saying, like when you walk out to the car, what are you thinking or how are you feeling? Like what's on your mind? And the boys were all like, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, just get to the car.
I'm hungry. I'm going to go get something to eat or whatever. And the girls were like, well, I made sure that I parked close to a light intentionally. And then he was like, when you walk up to your car, what do you do? And the guys are like, I get in my car. And a lot of the women were like, I look in the back seat. I look under the car. I make sure that my keys are ready before I get there, and I have the car unlocked. And then when I get in, I lock it right away.
Yeah.
Like all these things. And then he started taking those questions to the men and saying, "Have you ever looked under your car?" And they're all like, "No."
Yeah. Why would I do
that?
that?
Looked in the back? Have you ever thought to look in the back seat? And they're like, And there were like 12 of these things, right? And I'm reading this, and I'm putting myself. I'm answering the questions myself, and that's what shocked me. And it shocked me not only because of what was, what happened there, but also because I hadn't considered it.
Right.
Like I hadn't up until then. I'm not surprised that's what happens sometimes. I'm surprised that I never thought about it as significant.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. But don't feel any guilt that you haven't done that.
Well,
you're like,
I do feel a little guilt. I'm surprised. I'm a little embarrassed, but because my wife would do that and just does that kind of stuff. Like that's how things are for her. And it's not like that for me at all. I've never considered any of those things. And my daughter's 9, and that's how it's going to be for her. She's going to be thinking about those things. They're going to be passed on to her. Like I have no doubt my wife will say things to her that she'll think of because that's how she's experienced life, that I would never think to say, hey, make sure you park next to a light in a parking lot, or like, so when you come out to your car that it's lit up.
You can see. And
I'm struck by that. I think it means something important. And I'm processing it. I'm working through it. But I think my biggest thing is I want to be more sensitive and open to that and the why of that. Does that make
Yes,
that make
and
sense?
that's why you shouldn't feel guilt over it, because you are taking that information in and you're moving forward with it.
Yeah, well.
Ignorance and innocence are close. You know what I mean?
Okay,
like,
that's helpful.
Like and you do as well as you can until you know better, right? That famous Maya Angelou quote. And you're taking what you know now and you're going to do better.
Yeah.
That's all that matters. So let go of the guilt that you didn't think about it naturally from a woman's point of view.
Okay.
Let go of that shit.
Okay. Thank you.
And move forward knowing that you have a 9-year-old daughter that you get a chance to help her.
That's the thing for me.
And your
want
son,
to.
you get a chance to help.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And I really want to. And I want to do that. I think that's the big piece for me. But I also want to be cognizant of how things are for my wife too, because I know that I haven't been for so long either.
Right. Well, and that's the nature, I think, of the different genders, right? And in relationships, she probably, on the other hand, has no idea what it's like for you to do certain things.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that what you're doing, both in photography but with martial arts, is a big deal.
Thank you.
And I applaud you. I do. You made me cry today.
Well, I was crying too.
You said you'd wrap your arms around. I did, because I wasn't even thinking of that. I was like, oh, she's going to have some really great pearls of wisdom for people. And you did, but you started off with like a picture of just embracing somebody and holding them, and that really got to me.
Well, and that's what we all need, right? It's just somebody to care and to hold space for us and to support us.
Thank you for doing this.
Oh, thank you.
I am going to look forward to editing this and putting this out there. I
gotta leave the tears in, man. Gotta leave the tears in.
I will. I might get rid of mine, but I'll leave yours in there.
Oh, good luck with that, editing wizard.
Thanks again, Miyo.
Thanks, Jed.